It's the Morning Marketing Machine, here to grow your e-commerce business with proven marketing strategies and tactics, so you can run your business with machine-like precision. My name is Douglas Levin. Let's dive in. Welcome to Morning Marketing Machine, and I have a very special guest today. So Matthew Beck has been helping small, medium-sized businesses. I know I was going to screw that up. Market for the last 28 years. Starting as a salesperson for a Yellow Pages company in 1995, he steadily rose in position and responsibility, eventually becoming the regional vice president of the Western United States. So pretty big. Matt's helped thousands of small, medium-sized businesses maximize their marketing budgets through Yellow Page advertising and then to digital media. In 2018, he left the corporate world and bought a franchise that focused on helping small and medium-sized businesses save and improve service on their shipping and freight needs. So thank you so much for coming on, Matt.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We actually found each other through networking and things, but I wanted to say for everyone that doesn't know much about you, if you can let people know like how you got started in all of this.
Yeah. So, kind of as you had pointed out there, I started out fresh out of college doing a job that every college kid dreams about, and that's selling Yellow Page advertising. Quite honestly, before I went to the interview, I didn't even know that people sold things in the Yellow Pages. I just thought it was a free book that was put on your doorstep every year. But really quickly into that, fell in love with it, and did sales for that for about 3 years, and then ran a small sales team, and then ran a state, and then ran a couple states, and eventually ended up having about 170 sales people and sales managers that I had the opportunity to work with, and here in the Western U.S. So started that. As you can imagine, the Yellow Page world is pretty much extinct at this point. And in 2008, we started selling digital advertising, websites and pay-per-click and search optimization and social media, and pretty much anything you can do, because we were a $2 billion phone book company that was going backwards at about 18% a year over year, and that's painful. And so it was a painful number of years, and finally in 2018, I had kind of gotten tired of that, and decided I would look for something else, some other way to help and help businesses. And the small and medium-sized business, I truly believe, are the backbone of this country, and they're the people I really love working with. A great group of folks, entrepreneurs. And I found this opportunity with a company called InExpress, bought a franchise, and for the last 2.5 years now, that's what I've been doing is working with them on consulting for cost savings and service improvement on their shipping and or freight needs.
Yeah. So there's a lot that you were talking about there. I kind of want to go through a little bit as well. So if you're, when you got started in 95, at that point, did you have any type of business history at all? Was it coming like straight from like being a complete novice, and you're like, because obviously if you're doing well on the sales side and you get up to as high of a position as you did, I mean, you're doing something right, even if it was Yellow Pages, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been I had this old accountant that I just love. He was out of Butte, Montana. He would call me a peddler, and I love that. I love that word. And he meant it as a compliment when he said it. So I guess I've been a peddler most of my life. Even in high school, I was selling shoes and stuff like that. All through college, I worked at in different selling capacities. So I wasn't a complete novice in the sales world when I started there. I definitely was a novice in the marketing world when I started there, in the advertising world. Didn't have a whole lot of experience with that, but they had a really good training program, and if you hadn't been in the Yellow Page industry, you really don't know what you were missing, but you were missing a lot. It was a great business. Those things just puked profit. It was insane, the margins that we enjoyed in those businesses. And obviously when you're enjoying those things, you're enjoying nice trips to Mexico once a year, and you're enjoying all of the perks that come with that. And I wasn't completely fresh in the peddling business, but I was fresh in the marketing part of it.
Mhm. So obviously you were with them for a while, and um, like what eventually made that shift something that you wanted to go through? Because obviously, yeah. Now, if you're looking back at it, you're like, well, yeah, it's a dinosaur and everything that goes along with it. But as you're going through it, like on your end and on their end too, like what's that process like in terms of, all right, now we need to pivot, or like is it just
Yeah.
purely looking at the data and saying we got to figure something out? Was it something else? Like what helped you and what helped them at that point to change?
Well, so that company started changing in 2008, right around there, maybe 2006, 2007. We started doing things like replicating the phone book online. That was our digital presence. It was basically, it was basically the phone book online. Literally, you could find photocopies of or photos of the ads online, just in their page form. And that's kind of how it started. Because yeah, I mean, I think everybody kind of saw the writing on the wall that digital was eventually going to take over. So we started with that. Then we started with little 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 10, 20 page cookie cutter websites. Really basic stuff, but it was really most of the small and medium sized businesses. It was most of their first foray really into the internet. It was their first kind of jump online, and so we made it really affordable, really easy. They were there; they could be found. It still was not their primary place that people are going to find them, but especially the kind of more cutting edge ones started moving that way. 2008 and 2009 happened, and the kind of world recession, certainly here in the U.S., and that just put the pedal to the metal, if you will, in the acceleration of the demise of the phone book world. Google cell phones are getting better. Google's coming around, all that good kind of stuff. MySpace is just about being converted to Facebook at that point, and so digital world's coming in hot and heavy, and the recession was really cramping the small medium sized business, and they really started looking at where they were investing their money, and they really started looking at the phone book as a dinosaur type of a product, many of them. And so it really accelerated the demise, just because they're like, we don't have the money for it. We've got to be selective, and this isn't where we're going to be choosing to do that. So at that point, we really took a very hard pivot, and got partnered up with Google. We were a premier partner with Google, and eventually became a premier partner with Facebook. We did online listings management, online reputation management, display ads online through the Microsoft network. But you had $2 billion in print revenue, going backwards at 18%. And I think when we kind of first really started putting our hammer down on digital, we were like a $50 million digital, company. And so $50 million is a lot, but it's not a lot compared to a negative 18 on 2 billion. And so we started shrinking and started shrinking and started shrinking. And every year, it always seemed to happen about 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, I would get a phone call from the senior vice president of sales, my boss, and say, here's how many people you got to let go. And that happened every single year from 2008 on. And as much time, I was there for 24 years. So I'd invested, a big hunk of half my life at the time. I had invested there, and it was a really difficult decision to leave. But it was really, it just got to the point where mentally it was just draining. I didn't enjoy my job anymore, and I found myself not probably putting in the effort I should have put in for them and for me. And it was just time for a change. And so I kind of backdoor found my way into InExpress, and it was still the same type of businesses that I was working with and the people that I love working with. And it just really rejuvenated me. At 48 years old, I had to learn everything new, and I made so many errors in my first year. It was basically like paying for an additional college education, because I learned very fast, when you own your own stuff and you screw something up, you're the one paying for it. You're not just getting in trouble from your boss. It's coming out of your paycheck or your bank account or whatever. I guess hopefully that answered your question pretty long-windedly there.
Oh no, it was good. And As you're talking about that, and like obviously when you're with that company for so long, you're saying what 24 years with the same company, a lot of people at that point they would have gone down with the ship. They would have like when you're in that situation and you're having to lay off employees every year and you're dealing with it basically going towards zero at that point. Like what ultimately kind of gets you over the edge to make that change when a lot of people wouldn't have, and what ultimately got you into like your new line of work too, because I obviously like you were saying that you kind of made that switch. Was it something you got lucky with and just found immediately, or like what if you kind of take us through like what's going on at that point?
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of luck on it, actually. But what pushed me over the edge was just seeing the writing on the wall, knowing that um, uh, eventually this could happen to me. Eventually, it was happening to my friends that I'd worked there with forever, and at 48, you're not getting any younger, and there's only so much time, at least in my head, that I thought, I can do a restart. I can do that. And so I was talking to a friend of mine who used to be a manager who worked for me, and this is like it's like the Ferris Bueller's, his friend's brother, sister's cousin type deal. Her brother was talking to their cousin's fiance, and that cousin's fiance happened to be a franchise owner at Inexpress, and they were looking at going into it and doing it. And I'm like, well, tell me more about it. And so she did. And the Inexpress corporate office, I'm located now in Boise, Idaho. Inexpress America corporate office is out of Salt Lake, so just a few hour drive for me. And so I went down and met with them, and I had never seriously thought of buying a franchise. I hadn't even really thought about being, my own boss.
Mhm.
But it all just kind of came together at a time where I was ready to do it, and it was there and available for me. And it was just kind of the paths crossed right at kind of the right time for me, and very fortunate that they did.
Yeah. So as you're getting into this then, and you're coming from that position of being in the same job, like a high up kind of person at the company, to something that you've never done before, something that is very foreign. I know for me, like I've kind of come from that same perspective of like I was never a business owner. I didn't know the first thing about it. So what goes into when you're trying to learn at that point? Like what is that process like when for you at that point to stick with it and to make that change, and like how do you deal with those setbacks along the way? Because I assume there was a lot of, as you're saying, there was a lot of mistakes made when you're trying something completely new at 48 years old, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, there is. And I will say Inexpress has a really good training program for people who are thinking about doing that. They do a really nice job of getting you up to speed. But with that being said, there is so much that goes into logistics, and we kind of do most all of it. We don't really help with warehousing, but anything from small little 1 ounce pendants up to 50-foot ocean containers, we do everything in between. And so there's only so much you can get crammed into your head in a classroom type setting and retain and utilize. So you make a lot of mistakes, and you stub your toe a lot, and you make bad marketing decisions. You put money in places where it didn't work. You didn't get the return on it, and I've hired a few people, and you make some bad decisions in that. No one's ever 100% in hiring great salespeople, which is kind of the main thing that I look for. So it was tough, but what kept me going was it was all new, it was all fresh, it was all fresh material. And some of the business owners I've met are just they've come up with some little tiny idea, and they made it into a business that's sending products all over the world. And just really, really smart, inventive, creative people that I get a chance to work with on a day in, day out basis. And that, in addition to fresh material, really keeps you going and keeps the juices flowing and gets you up every day and all that good kind of stuff.
Yeah. So would you say that there's anything that did translate as you're making that changeover from that 24 years plus of experience?
Sales, for sure. I mean, knocking doors, shaking hands, kissing babies, all that good stuff that you got to do. COVID has definitely affected that part of the job. I was a peddler, as my old accountant used to say, and I loved training people on how to do that. My favorite thing in my previous life, I call it, was having a salesperson make President's Club for the first time, and knowing that I was a big instrumental part of that, or promoting someone into a management position for the first time, and knowing that I was instrumental in help training them and providing them with a better income and a better life and all that kind of stuff. That was very gratifying and very enjoyable. So one of the things I really enjoyed was just getting out with salespeople and going out and meeting new businesses and stuff like that. And that's exactly what I started doing when I started at InExpress. Find a area that the businesses look like they're people that probably ship some stuff, and you start going around introducing yourself. And so that translated over really well. My sales management has translated over really well to the salespeople that I've hired. I've had some really fortunate salespeople come into my life now that are doing a really nice job for me as well. So those things all kind of translated over really well. What didn't come with it, I didn't know anything about balance sheets. I didn't know anything about, what accountant I should hire, quarterly taxes, just all that stuff that comes with every part of the business that's not the actual sales part, was all very much a sharp learning curve for me.
So would you say at this point, then that's the part of the business that you would say you love the least when it comes to everything?
Yeah, it is, for a number of reasons. Number one, I'm kind of a social person. I enjoy meeting with new people and meeting with old friends and all that good kind of stuff. And that kind of stuff is more, you're kind of just on your own doing it. It's more isolated, I guess, would be the way I would put it. Whereas the sales side of things, you're out, you're meeting someone new every 5 minutes, and you're, all that good stuff. And so yeah, I like it the least because it's what I'm least good at, and it's really not the best fit for my personality either.
So I assume as soon as you could, you outsource that, or is it still something you have to deal with?
Yeah, no, I have one of the people that I had to lay off was a gal. Her name's Ricky. She, when we were in our heyday in my previous life, I had probably 13 offices around the Western U.S., and each of those offices had what we called a sales assistant, which was someone who was there filing, answering the phones, making copies, all that good kind of stuff. Great people. And they were the first people that we had to start laying off when we started going down, because they weren't making sales, right? They weren't revenue producing, and things were going digital. So you didn't need file cabinets and stuff like that as much as you did back in the day. Ricky was my manager over all of those people, and I just really became close with her. I think she's currently 62. When I laid her off, she was, in her upper 50s. And she was the first person I hired as soon as I started my own job, because it was one of the worst meetings I ever had, having to let her know that she wasn't going to be able to stay working with us. And she never got a job in that time frame. She was unemployed in that entire time. So when I first brought her on, I brought her on part-time, and then we've gradually worked up into getting her a decent number of hours. And so she takes care of a lot of my customer service stuff, but she takes care of a lot of the back office stuff that I don't like to do now too. So, and it's great working with her again. That's been one of the things that I really enjoy about it.
Yeah, it's awesome that you were able to kind of help some of the people that you had to deal with a really bad situation, at least kind of get it in a much better place now. It was awesome.
Yeah. And there's actually a few more out there I want to, but I need to keep building the business. I can't, it's not a charitable organization. We need to make sure we're making a profit as well. So
yeah, I think that was one of the things that when I first got in business, I was really bad at cash flow and understanding all of that. Like, yeah, well, it's great you're making this money, but you need this to run the business and everything else that goes along with it. You don't really, if you've never done it before, you like you were just talking about, same kind of deal.
Oh yeah. There's
Yeah,
nights I've woke up and couldn't get back to sleep because you just got that going through your head of, you know, need to get more cash coming through, need to get more cash coming through, need to get more cash coming through.
definitely. So this is a question that I always want to ask people because this is honestly something I deal with a lot, and I know a lot of business owners deal with it as well. As like when you're in that, like no matter what happens with your day-to-day life as a business owner, entrepreneur, like there are times that you kind of for whatever reason are going to be in a funk and you're not going to it's going to be hard for you to overcome stumbling blocks. So
Mm-hmm.
at that point for you, what have you tried and what helps you to kind of overcome those stumbling blocks?
You know, one of the things InExpress talks a lot about, and it's not just InExpress, they definitely are not the inventors of this, but they talk a lot about your why, and what is the why that you have to do what you're doing. Um, you know, my why is twofold. And those are the two things that when I'm having a really crappy day, kind of makes you pull yourself up by the bootstraps and drive on. And you might not be as productive that day, but you're going to get something done and move the ball the right direction down the field. Um, the first why is my family. Through my previous life, I was able to, you know, I made a good living and you know, provided some nice stuff, and you know, it wasn't going to be fair to, you know, my family if all of a sudden, just because dad was kind of sick of doing the previous gig, that he's now not able to, you know, provide like he was able to provide before. And so that's a huge why for me. And an even bigger why for me is I hate to lose more than anything on the planet. I chalk everything in life up to wins and losses in my own head, and um, not you know, being successful is a loss, right? For me, it's just not something that I'm gonna lay down and take. So if it's a crappy day, I kind of look at myself in the mirror or have a little inner dialogue and say, "You're not gonna lose. Move your ass." I don't. You probably can't see it, but this is pull it down here. That's what I had up in my sales office forever, Goya. And that's the best selling strategy there is. That's get off your ass and get going.
Mhm.
So that's
So,
what gets me going.
you were talking about wins and losses. So what do you count as a win? Is it just getting whatever task you had planned for that day done, or what do you count as a win in those?
Yeah, a win. That certainly is a win. You know, if I've got, you know, I want to make 20 uh, impactful contacts with business owners in a day. If I get 20, I look back on that day and that's a win. They could be 20 and all of them told me no, but I got through my 20. And so that was my job for that day and I got it done. But, you know, really I kind of measure my wins and losses right now in each week's time frame. And I measure it in two different ways. I measure it in how many new customers I had a chance to help that week. So, you know, and we try to get two every single week between me and then my salespeople. Each of us try to get two every single week. And then, you know, what is the revenue that's coming in? And hopefully, as we keep growing our customer base, that revenue keeps growing. And so those are kind of the two things that I chalk up to a win right now. And they're really pretty short. They're little sprints, right? It's not a marathon. I think it's a lot better to have little small incremental goals that you can hit and check the box and say, yep, I did it. And they'll eventually lead you to, you know, the $1 million business that you can sell for 10 million or whatever, you know.
Right.
That's kind of how I chop things up, I guess, from a business sense and wins and losses for myself.
Yeah, yeah, and I like that because obviously like you've heard I assume many people have talked about like the idea in business is if you need to have something measurable, or else you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to know how you're doing, and then obviously to have some kind of a plan and keep it manageable, right?
Yep.
Because if you're saying, okay, I'm selling $5,000 a month and I want to get to $1 million, it's like, well, there's a big chunk there. It's like, how are you going to get there? Like, you
Yeah.
have to break it up. You need those bite-sized portions. So I love what you're saying there in terms of like that's how you can get there. Otherwise, it's just going to seem way too overwhelming as you're
Yeah,
going through
it's
it.
it's it's the eat the elephant a bite at a time adage, and that's all you can do. You're not going to turn on a spigot and have success just pour out. It takes time, it takes effort. One of the core values of my previous company was keep score, have fun, and win. And I love all those things. I love keeping score. I'm anal about spreadsheets and stuff like that, and I love winning more than anything on the planet. And I love having fun. And if you're not having fun, life's too short. There's something you can do to have fun. Go find that. But I love that adage, and it's something that I brought with me from them.
So as you're dealing with all that every day, like how do you get the most out of your day then?
Uh, I think the biggest key, and if I would turn my computer around and show you the bookshelf over there of all the self-help books I have through the course of my career, time management probably is the largest percentage of what those books are, and organization. Because I am a fairly gregarious person. I'm fairly outgoing. I like to talk to people. I like doing all that stuff. I have a tendency to kind of, I can get drawn off course pretty easily if I don't time block. And so that's what I really try to do. There's specific things that have to get done for me in a given day. I try to put those at the very first part of the day and get them done. And I don't return a text. I don't answer a phone call. I don't do anything, unless it's a really large customer that I know might be having an issue. Then I might break that rule. But everything else, my wife calls, my son calls, it goes to voicemail. I'll get it as soon as I'm done with my time block. And I think that's the real, key in anything. I have, you can't see it, but I've got a list of the people that I needed to call today right over here, and I've gotten through it, and I got some great stuff from it. And so I'm a big fan of lists. I'm a big fan of using my CRM programs to help keep me in line, and time blocking.
Yeah. So since you brought it up, I know I've become a big reader over the last couple of years, and so I wanted to ask you which books helped you the best in terms of that aspect of time blocking and other aspects like that.
My favorite book, and I used to buy this and give it to all my salespeople and sales managers too, is a guy named Larry Winget.
Mhm.
You know who he is?
No, I'm not familiar.
He used to have a show on like A&E where he would he's really like, he dresses crazy. He's got these big rings on and tattoos. He's always got his Western shirt and these crazy cowboy boots on, stuff like that. But he would drive around with people who were, they made decent money, but they were always broke. And he would just like chastise the heck out of them. Why are you buying Starbucks? Or, this is why you're always broke. Anyway, he's got a book out that I would recommend to anybody to read. And the book's called Work for a Reason. Your success is your own damn fault. And that is the title of the book. And it is just 100% in your face, just slaps you every chapter of stuff that you're doing right now. I still do it, but he's like, you're doing this, you're doing this, stop doing this. And here's some ways to do that. So he talks a lot about time blocking and stuff like that in there. But more than that, it's just this mindset of get out there and get it done. That's just do it, as Nike might say. But that's my favorite that I've had. It's an older book. I've had it forever, but I've got it highlighted. I've got it bookmarked. It's one of those books that I go back to, as more often than almost any of them. So it's a great one. I've got a Brian Tracy book on time management. I've listened to a lot of tapes on sales management from a time standpoint. I love Zig Ziglar. I love Tom Hopkins. I love all those old classic guys. I still have a cassette recorder just because I still have those guys on cassettes and I like to listen to it every once in a while. That's how old I am. But um, yeah, those are some of the ones that I like.
All right. Do you think like morning routines have helped you at all too, or is it mostly like mindset and reading that have helped you the best?
Yeah, I think it's more of a mindset thing and just a repetition thing, a coaching yourself to, you know, I'm up, and another part of this, and you know this, I'm sure, is we're now, even before COVID, but certainly now everybody, at least for a little while with COVID, we're all doing this from home. And there are so many distractions in your home. I've got laundry I could be going and moving. I got, I could be watching Sports Center. I don't have a TV in my office for that very reason, or I probably would be. So I force myself every day, get up, get showered, dressed like I'm going to work, like I'm going to the office. And I do that by 7:30 in the morning or whatever. So it was, quite frankly, it's really easy to stay in bed a little bit longer when you don't have a place that you've got to be and report to and someone to hold you accountable and you're doing it yourself. So just that repetition and trying to force yourself into that, I think has really, really been critical for me, to not only survive, but hopefully thrive in this virtual environment. And um, COVID has done some real positive things for me. And I've talked to a lot of other business owners that say the same thing. There's a lot of business owners that hasn't, obviously, but it's really opened people's eyes to virtual and what can be done virtually. Prospecting for me has taken on a whole new level. I used to make fun and chastise my salespeople and sales managers that were sending out emails. I'm like, you're not going to get any business sending out emails. Go press some flesh, talk to somebody. I get a lot of business sending out emails now. I get a lot of business doing social media networking. So eventually, that's how you and I kind of got together, was through some connections through LinkedIn. And all those things are stuff I probably wouldn't even have. I probably wouldn't have put the time and energy into them had I not been forced to, by not being able to go out and see people and stuff like that. So I think for me, it's more of a routine. It's more of a structure. I need structure for sure. And I force myself.
Yeah, and I know that that's been something I've struggled with too, in terms of like, because I've been staying at home for the most part for like the last 5 or 6 years, and that's been my life, and it can be so easy because you're the one in charge.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, well, I can sleep an extra hour, or I can do this instead. But it really is like, if you're going to make progress, you were talking about the time blocking, that is something that I try to focus on too. It's just because it's so easy to just lose progress and just like have a huge time suck on something that isn't really going to help you in any way. Um,
Yeah.
like I'm a sports fan too, so like I could definitely see myself listening to like sports radio or some of that kind of thing for like hours and hours if I'm not working, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Thursdays and Fridays are brutal because there's usually great golf tournaments on during the day. So I'm like, God, you gotta leave it off. Gotta leave it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is difficult. Yeah, you got to be structured for sure.
So
But
so
I think the time blocking is really, in addition to just blocking the time, what I try to do is give myself a cookie, if you will. So I block the time, do something I don't like first, have something I really enjoy doing set up for right after that. So it motivates me to get through that, get it done, and then gives me something to look forward to, after that time block. And so I try to do as much of that as I can as well.
yeah, there was like one of the people I know, his name's Carlos Alvarez, and he's got like he's really big in the Amazon space, and he's talked about the Pomodoro Technique, if you've ever heard of it. Like, it sounds something like it's similar. It's like you're gonna work straight for like 25 minutes or so, then you're gonna take 5 minutes off. Like
Mhm.
it's just kind of like little sprints, like you were just talking about. It's the same kind of deal, but like you're rewarding yourself, and then you're gonna try and work straight, and then reward yourself again.
Yeah.
It's when I know, at least for me, when you're looking at something, you're like, hey, if I'm time blocking in, all right, I'm going to allow 3 hours for project X and it's got to get done, but then you're just looking at 3 hours straight. It seems
Yeah.
overwhelming a lot of the time. So being able to set it up like you're
Especially,
talking about helps.
especially if it's 3 hours of stuff you don't want to do, really. Then
Yeah.
it really is. If it's 3 hours of something you enjoy, then it's not quite as bad. But yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and that's when you go finding yourself, oh yeah, maybe I'll listen to sports for a little while, right? And it never gets done. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So you obviously brought up your family a little bit earlier. So this is a question that I always want to know what people's thoughts are. Like, what is a work-life balance to you?
Hmm. Um, yeah, it's a great question. I think I've got a good one. I try really hard to be like a 7 to 5 type of guy for the most part. And I think that's pretty reasonable, especially starting a new business. Matter of fact, I probably should. I wanted to jumpstart it faster. I would have, done because I used to, when I first got into the corporate world, there was a ton of 12, 13-hour days that I would pull regularly as you're trying to make a name for yourself and work your way up and turn things around and all that kind of stuff. I really haven't done that a whole lot in this capacity. So I think we like to do fun trips. We like to go skiing. We like to go boating. We like to do all of those things. And COVID's put a little bit of a damper on that this year, but for the most part, we've still been able to do that. So I think it's a really, really important thing. I never thought I would be to the point, but next year is my last year of having a kid at home. And I seriously get verklempt just sitting around thinking about it this year. I'm already stressed out about it, and it's not even my last year yet. But my son's he's an athlete. He's in the highest division in the state, and starts and letters and all that kind of stuff. And so that's just I'm a sports guy, right? So I'm so selfish about it. I'm like, God, he leaves high school. What am I going to do? I'm not going to have Friday night football games. I'm not going to have Thursday night basketball. I'm not going to, I love that stuff, just love it. And so I'm spending I'm soaking up as much of that as I possibly can right now because it's probably going to go away. He's got a chance at maybe playing at the next level next year. He's got a few schools reaching out to him already and stuff like that, but it's not going to be the same for sure. So I think it's a very crucial thing to do. My mantra has always been, I work to live, I don't live to work. I'm going to work as hard as I have to not let my family down, but I'm also not going to work so hard that but I'm neglecting my family either. I figure if you can't get something done in 8 or 10 hours, 5 days a week, maybe you're not that good at it. Maybe it's trying to find something else to do, So.
Yeah, and that's one thing I know I've heard a lot of people say as well. Like when they're chasing dollars, like, oh, I want to be a millionaire, I want to be a billionaire, any of that kind of stuff, but they do it at the cost of family a lot of times, or they do it without a real purpose.
Yeah.
And that's where like I know I've heard like one of my favorite people to model is Tom Bilyeu, and he's talked about this in the past too. Like he was a millionaire on paper and he wasn't fulfilled at all. But you've got it, at least in my opinion, like the way I look at it is you've got it right in terms of like as you were saying with your mantra. I mean that's a lot of people look at it from the perspective of I need to grind, and if I'm working, I need to work 16, 20-hour days to get there, and they do it at the expense of their family. They do it just because of the dollar, right? That's what their big goal is. And I like don't get me wrong. I think that yeah, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a billionaire, right? But not at the expense of fulfillment. I mean, that's why I know for me I do it, and that's one of the things I love about what you're talking about too, is that you have your priorities set. Like you know what your why is, and you're not deviating from that as you go through your work, which I think is honestly pretty rare. I think a lot of business owners, they obsess about the grind and then they kind of forget about why. So,
Yeah. No, I don't disagree.
yeah.
And I was in that, like I said, when I first started, I did all that stuff, and I did neglect my family a little bit probably because of it. But I justified it back then that, my kids were really young. This is a time I can put this kind of energy in right now. And, you bet on the come, right? So I'm putting all my time and energy in right now for what's going to come to me because of it down the road. And I was fortunate. It worked out for me. I've had great mentors in my career, and people that really have looked out for me and taught me along the way. And they were always people that were get out of the office, go home, take this week off. You're going to lose your week vacation if you don't take it here. Get out of here. And so I've been fortunate in that regard.
Awesome. So just a couple of quick questions here. I don't want to keep you too long, but there was a book I read called The One Thing, and they have this. So basically, the entire point of the book is that there's going to be one thing that you work on that is going to make everything else so much easier or unnecessary. So I want to ask you, like, what's your most important thing that you're working on right now?
Probably still time management. I'm not kidding you. It's just something I have a really hard time stamping down. Mine is just keeping the blinders on, keeping my focus where it needs to be, and continuing, like I said before, move the ball down the field. I'm coming up to the 50-yard line. There was a time not that long ago, within the last 6 months, I was starting to worry whether I could make this work. And lost a few large customers, not because of anything I did, just circumstances, lost some customers during COVID, stuff like that. And I just didn't know if I was going to be able to make it happen. And if you let that get into your head, it really becomes a cancer. And so I really just try to keep the blinders on, keep things focused. I'm to a point now where I feel really good about things. Like I said, I think I've crossed midfield, and I'm going to be a millionaire. I will have that. On paper, I've had it before in the past, and I lost a little bit of it, but I will. And but that's not the end goal. A dream of mine would be, my oldest son, I thought, would potentially come and start working with me, and that would have been amazing. He ended up starting his own insurance agency, so he's doing fabulous on his own, and he's a great salesman. And so now my hope is maybe I can build this up so when my second son gets out of college, I can bring him on board. And my parents were my father was a minister, my mom was a secretary. I came from a pretty modest place. We were middle class, Midwest middle class people, but didn't have a whole lot, and certainly never had anything given to me because there was nothing to give. I really want to teach that work ethic to my kids, but I also want to be able to give them some stuff to accelerate their ability to be successful. And hopefully then they can do that with their kids, and so on and so forth. So my one thing is really just keep focused, just maintain that focus, maintain doing what you need to do, put one foot in front of the other every day, and just keep going.
Awesome. So one of the last questions I want to ask you was, I was a guest on a friend of mine's podcast, and he brought this question up, and I love the question. So I always want to ask people that are guests on my show. So I would ask you, what's your definition of success?
What is your definition of success? Well, I think there's multiple types of success. You've got your emotional success, or you fulfilled emotionally. You've got your financial success. But for me, the biggest thing is I like to see my name on the top of lists. I don't really care how much money comes along with it, because I know the money's going to come. I just like to be on the top of stuff. I don't like, one of the things I specialized in my former life was taking really broken down areas that were just underperforming and not doing well. And my boss would be like, "Hey, how would you like to move to New Mexico?" And I would say, "I don't want to move to New Mexico." He's like, "Oh, we've got a need, and they're really struggling down there, and we need someone to turn it around. Can you do that for me?" And I'm like, "You bet." And would go down there, and within a year's time, discovered I really didn't like New Mexico, number one, but was able to turn around those markets, and the motivation for all those things. The reason is everything that we measured, I wanted to be on the top of those things. And if you're on the top of those things and performing well, the money's going to come. And as long as you got that work-life balance, the emotional side of things are going to be there, and I think you're successful. But, and then I guess, another side of that, as I'm talking through this, is, are your kids successful? Did you help create a solid contributor to society? Are they able to, not only are they successful and able to provide for themselves, but are they successful in good husbands? Are they successful in good fathers and stuff like that? So I've got one that is a good father and is doing well, providing for himself, and I'm feeling pretty bullish on the second one. So I think both of those are going to be a good measure of success as well.
Awesome. So I wanted to thank you so much for coming on today, sharing some of your story, your expert insight. It was so great to have you on. So I wanted to ask you, how can our listeners find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah, if you have any people that are doing any kind of shipping or freight, we do almost everything. We don't ship kids, no human trafficking, and there's a few other things that are on the no-no list, but everything else we ship. They can reach us at inexpresswestboise.com. They can email me at matt.beck@inexpress.com as well. I always tell people, just like Geico says 15 minutes can save you 15%. I'm typically saving 20 to 40% for most people, and it won't even take us 15 minutes to figure it out. So it just makes sense to have at least a quick conversation.
Awesome. And definitely, I know we've already talked, and I'm going to be using you guys as well. So thank you so much. And I'll have links for everyone to check it out and contact you as well. So thank you so much. And thank you for everyone that was listening to today's show, and talk to you guys next time on Morning Marketing Machine. All right. See ya.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate having me.